Okay, so we look at Doom 21x9 and specifically its 21x9 support. Now, this is a real beauty of a game, and no doubt has taken most people by surprise with its brilliant gameplay and technical support, and happily, that can include us. So it natively supports 21x9 with the aspect ratio list having 21x9 as an option right away, and resolution selection completely supportive of us ultra-widers. Now there are 3 modes to check here, but we will start with the story mode. So the game right away shows off more on the sides of the screen. There isn't any stretching or zooming of the image. However, I experienced one notable moment of pop-in on an object on the very edges of the screen in a story moment section, but other than that, there's no other pop-in issues. The HUD does stick to 16x9, but it's not too noticeable. However, there is the option to turn on performance analytics, which I must say, as you can see on screen for this gameplay, is really fantastic, giving you ample detail on what is going on, and with a leveling up system to show you more or less stats. This, unlike the rest of the HUD, shifts to the top right hand corner. In-game cutscene animation stuff, they aren't really cutscenes per se, as they're so brief, but things like chatting to NPCs, or glory kills, or prizing open doors, these are all ultra-wide, and the screen doesn't jump to 16x9 and then back to 21x9 like I've seen so many other titles do. However, specifically when pulling apart doors, you can notice slight issues with the top of your shoulders. There doesn't seem to be any textures there. However, it's a minor detail. Main cutscenes, on the other hand, are 16x9 with black bars. Thankfully, there aren't too many of them though. And the same goes for the loading screens. Lastly on this, the intro title to each level shifts to the right hand side of the screen. The main menu is 21x9, however the initial menu choice of single player or multiplayer or snap map has a 16x9 image with black bars, with just the UI shifting to the edges. Yeah, I kinda wished Bethesda would just make a 21x9 image here, but it's better than nothing I suppose, having the UI shift. And the main menu's beyond for single player with the smoky scene fills the entire screen, so they should have just stuck that on the front page, I don't know. The in-game menus have some of their UI shift to the sides, but most of it sticks at 16x9. The tab menu area is the same as the in-game menus, with some UI shifting to the sides, but most of it remaining at 16x9. Still, there's no black bars, thankfully, but there is a screen mesh effect that's stuck at 16x9, so you see a clear view of the world behind in the extra space on the sides. Another moment of failing screen images is the rune challenge stuff. When you start one, a 16x9 box appears awkwardly, but it's only a momentary thing before you just jump straight into the next fight. The tutorial info pop-ups that tell you what something does, really just at the start of the game they appear, these span the entire screen space, they don't cut off at 16x9. The map is very cool. It has different 2D and 3D modes and is a little overwhelming to look at when you first begin, as it's so radically different to nearly all other maps we're used to, but you quickly grow accustomed to using it, and it's nice being able to move all around at your own will. Most importantly though, it uses the entire screen space. And talking of using the entire screen space, the blood effects when you're shot stick to the very edges of the screen, and they're not really stretched. And when you're aiming down the sights of a scope, that too uses your entire screen. There's no black bars on the sides or other issues like we've seen in games like Metal Gear Solid. In regards to differences in multiplayer and snap map versus the single player support, within multiplayer gameplay, it's exactly the same. However, in-game menus lack a black background, instead just showing the events happening behind the menu elements. Loading screens are 16x9 with black bars, but differently now their UI elements like the map name and mode shift to the edges. The thing that made me most happy though is the main menu features unstretched background scenes. So gun editing and character customization is all displayed in its correct size, a fantastic fix from the beta. On the other side, we have Snap Map, which doesn't really have too many things to look at. However, the loading screens are slightly different as they are neither 16:9 or 21:9, but they have small black bars on the sides, and happily, the actual map editing is all ultra wide. There's no cutting off or popping on the edges, and the UI all shifts to the left, like the 16:9 section just sort of pushed itself in unison, which works fine, but it might as well have just stayed in the center really. I don't know why it's moved. The only thing with these three modes is having to switch from single player to multiplayer or Snap Map or wherever. You have to restart the game every time, which I did find a bit annoying. There's just nothing you can do about it, but I don't know why they just can't be built into the one client. Now for settings and performance. The settings options are very solid. Bethesda provided a great deal of ways to customize your graphics. However, unfortunately, it doesn't lead to the most significant FPS gains that I expected. Ultra versus low saw about a 20, 25, maybe 30 FPS difference on my GTX 980 Ti, and honestly I would have expected more, but we are running at 3440 by 1440, so it is being asked to do a lot, and so at 1080p it could have more significant gains. Still, it might hurt a little for lower end cards, but at the same time, Bethesda has done a great job here on PC, which they just don't have a good track record of doing in the past. So overall, it's actually pretty damn good. There is a very robust FOV slider. It has a good range, though it seems to affect the game world far more than the weapons. The weapons still feel quite close to you, but it's not really an issue. Now, I recorded all this at medium settings with no anti-aliasing, however I play at high settings with SMAA. Recording did hit FPS notably though, and I had wanted a smoother video for you guys, so I've just used medium settings and it still looks gorgeous. And on that point, this is a beautiful game. Bethesda really have created an amazing world here. Now, whilst playing through the single player, as multiplayer is very different with an extremely steady 95 FPS with only minor drops, it became very clear that my only actual issue with the performance of the game is its serious FPS fluctuations. And there are three tiers to this. First is when I'm running at 70 to 95 FPS, no problem. The next tier down is 60 to 65, and this was a very clear drop in frames as you focused on a particularly demanding area. Maybe there's a lot going on, there's a lot of lighting, and this drop is significant enough that it is very noticeable on a G-Sync monitor, and it happens quite a bit, leading to rather unsteady frame rates, which is undeniably a noticeable annoyance. And dropping graphics settings doesn't really seem to get rid of this. It does help, but it doesn't seem to remove it completely. The final tier is sub 60 FPS moments. Now, these don't happen a lot, but in large open indoor areas, I should add as outdoors were generally no problem, FPS did duck under 60 quite significantly, and really that wasn't actually the worst offender. I found that looking through windows caused FPS to drop the most. Now, this did seem to get fixed when I did the GeForce update, but yeah, it was very strange. But on this point, these are all things that are rather minor and could be updated with software patches. They're really just for comfortable playability, because realistically, if you really want that smooth FPS, you can drop the settings right down, and the game still looks good, and you'll be hitting those very high frame rates. But yeah, it's going to be your call. And again, this is at 1440p, so if you're at 1080p, things will be a lot better. Now, a strange problem I initially hit was huge mouse lag in the menus, even with VSync turned off in the game, and I was unsure why this was happening, but it turned out when I loaded up NVIDIA Control Panel, for some reason the game had locked VSync on. I don't know why. It's a bit strange as I didn't lock it myself in the beta, as I'm on a G-Sync monitor, so there's no need. But yeah, maybe if it happens to you, just make sure you check NVIDIA control panel. Maybe yours is locked on as well. Another problem I ran into when I first loaded up the game and changed all my settings to what I wanted, it seemed to be locked at 60 FPS, and I couldn't find a frame rate limiter or anything in there. But after restarting the game, it just fixed the FPS lock. So again, just restart the game if you're having this issue, and hopefully it fixes the locked FPS. Now my final little issue was with the slider not working correctly on the story info stuff. You would need to leave the menu and then return to the text you just picked up in game and read it again, and then you could scroll down through it. Just a strange point, but one that I did find. Whew, this has been quite a long breakdown, as there is a lot to cover, but I think I've hit everything. As you can tell, the support is bloody lovely, and I must say a massive thanks to Bethesda for it. Clearly work has been put into it, and it has paid off big time. Please, can all future releases be like this? Now for my thoughts on the actual gameplay and how the game as a whole works, check out my other video on screen now, or in the description, or on my channel. Anyway, I hope that gives you some information on how the game runs at 21:9. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe for future info. For any other games at 21:9, head over to my channel. Hopefully I've covered it. If I haven't, then leave a comment down below and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, the links to my Patreon page are in the description. See you later.